tuned into Breaking the Mask of Depression with your host, Diva with Depression.
Hello, welcome to Breaking the Mask of Depression with me, Diva with Depression. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing okay. This weather is kind of crazy. So I know one person has a cold, the next person doesn't have the cold, allergies. Everything is just a mess right now. The whole world is a mess. So let's just get into it. Every year, millions of people start to get depression. And that's separate. Those people, their depression is separate from our depression or my depression. There's a major, major difference. The difference is that they have seasonal affective disorder, which means that they're very, very sad when it starts to get dark, when the holidays are approaching, when it gets cold. So it starts to affect them. So in November of 2019, I wrote my first blog about seasonal affective disorder. And mostly because I was curious about it. And at that time, my friends and family had been talking about it because they were wondering why they would get so blah when the temperature changed and started getting darker earlier. And another one of my friends would just really, really be in a screwed up place, during that time. So I started to research SAD in 2019, and that's when I wrote my first blog about it. And then again in 2021, I wrote the article was published in Helpful Living magazine in time for fall 2021. Even though I think we were stuck in the house, weren't we? Anyway, for their fall edition, and I'll include both links in the blog on my website, so you can get both of those. And Helpful Living should be in my resources because that's an amazing magazine for mental health resources. Okay. Get back. So every year, starting in the fall months, 10 million people are affected by seasonal affective disorder. And so it'll start off, and some people it'll start off in August or September, and they say that it's autumn anxiety. And I have never heard of that until I was researching something, and I said, autumn anxiety? Yeah, I wonder. So I had to get the Google fact for you, and it says autumn anxiety is the tendency for people to suffer from anxiety and low mood during the autumn months. And so that didn't seem normal, because I had heard of SAD all the time, but I had never heard of autumn anxiety. But it made sense when I started to read on that, you go back to school in September. The summer is over, so probably, vacation time is over. I know teachers are just sad because they got to go back to work. So it made sense once I read it about why, you could be sad in the autumn. But that was the first time I heard about it. So that's a thing. So if you think about it, you can have autumn anxiety / SAD starting in about mid-October and on, because like I said, autumn anxiety is in August and September. And then by September, things are starting to change. The fall is starting to come on. So the symptoms for autumn anxiety, and I know that we're past it, but I really just want to mention it to you guys so you can have this information for next year. The symptoms for autumn anxiety are low mood and depression, anxiety and excessive worry, irritability, lethargy, loss of interest in everyday activities. Now, y'all, sidebar, that's my every fucking day. So I wouldn't know whether I had autumn anxiety, Christmas anxiety, whatever, because that is just my normal day. And for some people that are living with mental illness, that is their regular normal day. But for millions of people, it isn't. And it's not a laughing matter. I just make jokes because when I see things that say, oh, this is the worst that can be. And I'm like, all right, that's my everyday, but it's not. And so you notice that autumn anxiety, the symptoms are mimicking the signs for depression, so you have to pay attention to the difference. If you have these symptoms every day for 6 months, a year, and if it's starting to affect your lifestyle, then you have to know that this is not just seasonal. But if you notice that you start to get a little antsy, and anxious, you know, about the time school starts and the beach closes, then you know that, and then it goes away when spring comes, or even the new year comes. So, pay attention. You really, really have to pay attention to timing and symptoms. And the symptoms, like I said, you write down the symptoms that you have and you start to look them up. That's what I do. I give y'all Google Facts, right? Um, my daughter is the Dr. Google, I call her, because whenever something is wrong, she's on Google looking up the symptoms. So, of course, like I said, the symptoms can mimic depression, but if they go longer, then I would start to be concerned. And so when you start getting into, we just had daylight savings time. So now it's starting to get dark at 4 o'clock. If you're like me, you can't see shit after dark, and you got to be in the house now at 4:30. So if you're driving, you're through. Now, you people that got public transportation, y'all can stay out a little bit later. But me, I have to be in the house by the time it gets dark. So now I have to be in the house by 4:30. Um, it's colder. It's getting colder. I don't know about where you are today, but yesterday we had the 70s and today it's 32 degrees. So thank goodness I didn't have to leave the house today. But you see the drastic change in the weather, and depending on where you are, it could be snowing already. So the darkness, the cold weather, the change in just the change in seasons and daylight savings time. I don't know about y'all, but that 1 hour, it really kicks my ass every single year. So you notice that things start to change. And of course, when I first heard about it, it was called the winter blues. And what started it off is one day, my sister friend and I were having a conversation. And of course, my depression and everything is well known to everybody. And so we were discussing it, but she was discussing some of her, symptoms also. And thank God that her symptoms with depression are not as severe as mine, but it's something that we talk about often. But then she started to say that she notices that it gets worse when, like, around October, and then it tapers off around April. And so I was like, wow, that's weird. So um I asked the doctor about it, I think, one day, and they said they called it winter blues. So you think that you're just getting depressed or sad about the darkness and all of those different things, but it's actually more serious than winter blues. It's more serious than just feeling shitty one day, being mad that you can't go outside after 4:30. It's more than that, because like I said, the symptoms can be, you know the same thing: feeling listless, sad, down, losing interest in activities, oh, gaining weight and experiencing craving carbohydrates. That's me. Y'all know the Entenmann's cake. That's it. That's it. But that's my everyday. So if you notice that you're starting to crave Entenmann's and Italian butter cookies more often than normal, then that could be a sign. Difficulty concentrating, feeling hopeless, worthless, just everything, sluggish, no energy. And so, these are things that you're supposed to pay attention to because, of course, many of us can feel like that the week after daylight savings time. And then many of us can feel like that, because the holidays are coming. That's a big part of seasonal affective disorder also. But if it's something that starts to interfere with your everyday life, you're staying home from work because you just don't have any energy and you're sad. You're not talking to people and you really are overeating and, emotional eating, then that's something that you have to discuss with a doctor because, it may be something that talk therapy can help. That would be easy, not easy, but you know what I mean. Um, or maybe an anxiety med for the fall and winter months. I know it sounds crazy, but it really, really does. It's out, this is something that's major. And so, um, you know, this is what you should look for first, the oversleeping. And I just want to point out that every single effing mental illness, one of the first signs is always oversleeping. It's oversleeping in the morning and then insomnia at night. I swear to God, every single one of them just really screws up your sleep pattern. But that is one main thing to pay attention to. The tiredness and the low energy, again, that's across the board. But if you're just getting it in those months and it's severe and it's interfering with everything, then you should definitely talk to your primary care physician. You don't have to go straight to a therapist or a psychiatrist. You can talk to your primary care physician. And most of them, if they're worth their weight in salt, will have a discussion with you about it. Anyway, I always tell everybody, my primary care physician is the first one that noticed that I was in on my way to a breakdown. And she did everything to stop it, sidebar. But she's the first person that started trying to help me because she noticed that I was spiraling really, really bad. So talk to your primary care physician. And, if it gets severe, if you're feeling like it's overwhelming that you can't do your day to day. The tiredness and the low energy, like I said, that, it's just across the board. And, but I can't keep stressing this enough because I don't want people to get, to be alarmed or be, more stressed out because I'm saying that you're all sick, because that's not the case. You just have to, keep track of how you're feeling. Maybe a lot of people like to journal. I personally can't because I can't concentrate. But a lot of people like to journal, even if it's, on your daily calendar. I know when I was working, I had the desk pad with the calendar, and I would write so many things down in those little, even if it meant writing down how I feel. So if you have something like that, maybe for a week or two, keep track of your moods and, what you're doing and the times that it's happening. And then if you notice a pattern, an uncomfortable pattern, because, who the hell wants to be lethargic and low energy every day? you know um, so write it down, maybe for a 2 week period. Write it down on your calendar, write it down on a post-it note, stick it on the fridge or stick it on the mirror in your bathroom. Whatever you have to do, but just try to pay attention to how you're feeling, because that'll help you recognize whether this is something more severe or not. And like I said, in 2019, when I wrote the first blog, and I was talking to my sister friend, that's when, she discovered that this was something more. And that's when I discovered that it was something more that I should research. So, fortunately, my sister friend was willing to give me a quote to share with you guys about, just about how she feels. And I think it's important. I always think it's important to let you guys know that, there's real people behind these illnesses, and I'm not the only one. And because I'm so open with what I go through with my closest friends. Um, they're able to share with me if they are going through the same thing. And so this is a way that we can help each other through. So right before I started writing my show notes, I texted her and I asked her, do you have a quote for my episode? And she was so good that she sent it over to you. And she said, sad is more than a feeling, more than feeling a little down during certain times of the years. I get feelings of anxiety just knowing it's coming. The hardest part for me is trying to maintain a household when I don't even feel like getting out of bed. That's my sister, Twinster Lynn. And, she's, if you listen to anything or read anything that you write, you know that she really is one of my sisters. And she is one of the main people that I discuss the mental illnesses with. And she is the one that I mentioned before that it wasn't until we were talking that she discovered that was, bugging her. So, real people are suffering, real Black people are suffering. I was trying to find statistics for, the breakdown of who suffers more or who does what, but it's definitely what they say about 10 million people get SAD every year. And that's some shit. I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't know that it was that many people because I don't know. You just don't think that. I can understand when it says 20 million people are suffering with mental illness, but just to think that there's some people that get that miserable or that sad. I'm not going to say miserable, that sad in those 6 months maybe. That really was surprising to me that it was so many. And in my blog that I wrote, which I will share the link with you, one of the things that I wrote is that, of course, my depression has been on and off for years. But after my grandfather passed away, is really when I think the hill I started going downhill. It took me, I want to say, about 6 years or more before I was rock bottom, but that really shook me, of course, because he was my heart and soul. So when I wasn't excited about Christmas anymore, I always just said it's because my grandpa's gone, because that was one of his favorite times of year. It wasn't until, like I said, fast forward, reading, and when I started my blog and I had an interview with somebody, and that's when I realized that no, it's not that. That's part of it. You can actually be very anxious because the holidays are coming up. Who's cooking Thanksgiving dinner? My family's already bugging me now. Who's cooking Thanksgiving dinner? Am I going to have money to buy food? Am I going to have money to buy the kids Christmas presents? Am I going to have money to travel? All of these things piled on from November 1st to January 1st. Just that right there continue into a spiral. So you have to remember to add those things in. Then, Lord knows, when all of the family's together, you just never know what's going to happen. So you just never know who's going to act up or what's going to go down at Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas gatherings. So that can cause you anxiety too. And what if you want to say, hell no, I'm not going nowhere? But nobody understands that. You don't feel like it. That can be anxiety, producing also. But I want to say this to you, and this is from the bottom of my heart. If there are people in your family, and this is a total sidebar, if there are people in your family that trigger you so bad that you either flip on them or flip on somebody, it causes you to, maybe indulge in a drink or, smoking or whatever at that time just to calm your nerves, makes you angry, makes you cry. If there are people that are going to be at these gatherings that trigger those things, you are more than right to say, hell no, I'm not going. That's it. Or if you feel that you really, really have to go, I'm going, I'm staying an hour, and then I'm leaving. Because you don't want to add this to the list of your woes, your bad feeling. And I think that a lot of us get caught up in, you have to do this and you have to do that. You know, I told you guys that one of my children lives in Florida, the other one lives in Massachusetts. And this year, both of them, my youngest daughter is a makeup artist and she's working a lot and she works in retail. So holidays are hard to get off. My oldest daughter is in nursing school. So, she's studying, she's working at the hospital. It's just everything. And they would have to take off money, work and school, and they would lose money traveling. So I said to them, don't worry. you know we have to come to, and it really is a come to Jesus moment for the three, actually for the four of us, because their father misses them also. But it's a come to Jesus moment that, what, really, we really are spread out. So it's just not feasible to be together all the time. But I told them, don't worry about it. We can eat dinner via FaceTime, or something like that, but don't worry about it. Like, I really understand. Of course, I'm going to miss them, but we'll make up for it in another time. So if these are the things that are giving you anxiety and causing your seasonal affective disorder to increase, then step back. You don't have to do it. You don't have to buy all them damn Christmas presents, especially when your kids are going to play with the box more than they're going to play with the actual gifts, but we're in a time where, and I know this has nothing, well, actually it does have something to do with SAD. We're in a time right now where jobs are disappearing. Inflation is up. Uh, Inflation is outrageous. I mean, inflation is to the point where I really had to study about whether I can um, do my business this holiday, because the eggs and butter and everything is just ridiculous. I saw a pack of chicken wings the other day for $30. So we are we're not in our regular downtime. This is not the regular season where you go all out and spend your money on gifts. We are really in a bad place with inflation and low paying jobs and no jobs. And people are still suffering with COVID. Some people are suffering with long COVID. Some people are going to be sick forever. COVID triggered something with their lungs, and you know, I had COVID a couple of weeks ago and I still have the symptoms. So this is not just a regular time right now. Also, this is our first holiday outside. That's what I say. Um, so don't stress yourself. Don't overdo it, because I can't say don't stress yourself, because I stress myself the fuck out every single day. What I'm saying is, don't add to the anxiety that you're always already feeling. Um, Talk to your family members, talk to your friends, and I can guarantee you they're thinking the same thing that you're thinking. So say no, say no, say no, say no. So I just wanted to share this with you because last week, number one, I said to you that the the daylight savings time just really messed me up. And I really wanted to curse at some people because the next day, I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know how I was feeling. And then I just didn't realize the time. And like today, I just looked at the calendar and like Thanksgiving is like next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, who, what? What? Like, it was just January yesterday. so, so I wanted to share that with all of you because SAD is, as much as we can joke sometimes or whatever, SAD is actually a very serious thing for a lot of people. And I wanted to make sure that I did an episode on that before we get too deep into the darkness. And, you don't have the resources, or you are not sure what's going on with you or what's going on with the people around you, because it's not just the adults, it's the kids. Kids going back to school in September, they're miserable. Kids going to school, period, they're miserable, and that's from every stage, elementary school, junior high, college, every stage, they're miserable. They don't want to be in school. So, pay attention to those things and pay attention to your family and friends around you, because they may not be just depressed. or for the day. I always make sure to tell people this is not a day thing. You're not upset because you don't have, the right jeans on. This is deeper than that. It is deeper than that for seasonal affective disorder also. Those are real symptoms. And think about this. If seasonally you have some of these symptoms, what if they carry on and just keep going and going and going? Because you don't know what the hell to do. Like, how do I stop this train? And what is going on with me? That's the main thing that I want you to realize, and I want you to hold on to that. If this starts now, those symptoms start now, and they start to linger, and they start to get worse and worse and worse. Take it from me, you do not want to go down that hole. I want you to make sure that you reach out to whoever. If you could not get an appointment with your primary care doctor, go to urgent care. If you need to text me or Instagram me or message me, do that, because it's very serious. And I don't want anybody, I say this to everybody. I say this on every episode. I talk about it all the time. I don't want anybody to go through what I go through. My darkness is daily, 365, So if your days get longer and longer struggling, stop. Stop and go get help. Because when you say that 10 million people are living with it, that's crazy. The age to start is 18 to 30. So remember when I said young people, I believe it's less than 18, but the statistics in the Google says 18 to 30. And so, 4 women to 1 man. Another piece of shit that we got to go through as women. You see what I'm saying? We always get the low end of the stick. 4 women to 1 man. So that means what I said. You and your friends are all going through the same thing, and you need to start talking to each other about it and helping each other through it. Even if it's just an Al Green session with a glass of wine, go for it. But know that there are 4 women, 3 other women in addition to you that are struggling with seasonal affective disorder. And fellas, there's one other than you, probably more, but y'all don't talk about it much, that is going through the seasonal affective disorder. Because think about it. What if you are a husband? What if you are a father and you're in charge of providing? And so now we have to pay for Thanksgiving, like I said, pay for gifts and, make sure your family is having a nice holiday season. That's overwhelming too. I don't ever, shut men out because they go through it too. I just don't talk about it much because I'm a woman. I don't know what a man feels like. But men can also have seasonal affective disorder. So if you notice, like I said, your circle, 4 women to 1 man. I keep saying that because I'm like, what the hell else are they going to give us? So let's talk about what you can do to feel better. I want to say, I'm going to put a picture on my website. There's light therapy, and I don't know if I've talked about. I know I've talked about this before on interviews or something. They are lights that mimic sunlight, the outdoor light, and you use those for a certain amount during time during the day, or even all day. I have one on my desk, so when I'm sitting in there, I have it on. But they have some that are long, the standing gooseneck lamps. They're called the daylight lamps, and that helps with the seasonal affective disorder because you're feeling bad because it's dark. So if you have this light in addition to the lighting in your house, then that sort of boosts your mood. The second is vitamin D. Now I know that we all sigh when we hear the vitamin D lecture getting ready to come, but it really is a thing, guys. I notice a little difference when I take some vitamin D, but because Black and brown people lack the levels of vitamin D that may be needed. I won't say that are needed, but may be needed. That can contribute to the seasonal affective disorder also. As a matter of fact, that contributes to depression too. You're not getting enough sunlight. You're not getting enough light. Period. Because some of us are vampires, and we like the dark rooms. So vitamin D is a big thing. Before you before you start vitamin D, or not even before you start, but just ask your doctor about how much you can take, or if you're taking other medications, if it can interact. But vitamin D is one of the main things that you can do to help you get better and help you get out of that. And we don't want anybody to prolong their sadness. We don't want anybody to um, not enjoy their holidays, not enjoy, just being. Sometimes, you guys are off on vacation during the holidays, and I don't want you to be home and out and about suffering, without getting help, or without knowing your symptoms and knowing what you could be struggling with is part of the battle. Because if you know it's coming, like Lynn said, she knows it's coming. So that way she can fight it, or do what she needs to do to handle it. I always say that I know when my monster is getting ready to show out, and I can't necessarily get rid of it, but I can tame it somehow. I know what I have to do to not make it as vicious sometimes, because I know the symptoms, I know the signs. And so that is the first step in the battle. I know that, some of us are introverts. If you have a patio, go out on your patio once a day. If you, I make sure that I open my blinds every day. I purposely put all of my plants over there next to my window in the living room, because that gave me the reason to make sure that I open my blinds every single day. Like I said, I have the daylight lamp, and then I have a special lamp for my plants, and all of them, in their own little way, give me a bit of relief. So think about the vitamin D. I hope this helps someone. Like I said, I will post the links to my blog. Well, my blog is already on. The link for my blog is already on my website. So just look for the WordPress website information and go to my blog, and you can read, if you're going to do it now. This week I'm going to be posting that that blog on my website for you guys to read. But I will post the links for my blog. I will also post the links for Helpful Living magazine, for the article that I wrote. But they will also be in the resource category, because I know for a fact that's a very helpful resource. The woman that started it is amazing. And so, I'm 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 pushing her product here, but she's an amazing person, and the things that she's doing for the Black and Brown community and mental health is amazing. So please go to that link, and then you can go to her website and get the magazine. But I hope that this helps someone today. If it's not you, if it's the person sitting next to you, if it's the person, your neighbor, a coworker, even if it's a coworker that you don't like, um, we're all supposed to be being kind, right? It's World Kindness today. But just share with someone, because somebody can use it. Um, like I said, I keep saying, I don't want anybody to suffer like I suffer. So if you can avoid that, then please do that. Once again, I thank you guys for listening, supporting. One of my recent episodes got a lot of views, and I cried. The blog episodes with my daughter, with both of my daughters, you guys really showed out, and I really did cry, because I was amazed. I don't do this for numbers. I don't do this for numbers. I don't do this for money. I do this because, like I said, if I can help somebody avoid the pits of hell, then I'm going to do it. So thank you for supporting my techie. I tell you guys every week, Illuminated Technology, go for it. Please go follow him. He's a little busy right now with school, but follow him on Instagram, follow him on Facebook, and he can help you with your techie needs. I want you guys to have a great week, and I want you to breathe. I want you to do something to make you feel better every day. If you want to eat your favorite cookie on Monday, do that. If you want to watch your favorite sinful reality show on Tuesday, do that. But make sure that you do something good for yourself every single day. No gesture is big or small. Whatever makes you happy and whatever makes you feel good for at least 5 minutes, do that. Thank you guys. Take care of yourself and find your peace and find your wellness. Take care.